Good evening, everyone. I see the time is 5:30. It is Monday, April 20th. I'll call this regular council meeting of the Village Council of Harrison Hot Springs to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that our meeting today takes place on the traditional territory of Chehalis. No public hearing tonight. Are there any late items to introduce to our agenda? I see no late items to introduce. I'll move to approval of agenda. Could I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. I think I saw your hand first. Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor of the agenda, and the agenda is passed. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? I have one, maybe two. Again, after discussing this with the village's CAO and CO, I'm declaring a non-pecuniary conflict of interest regarding agenda items 10E and 16B. In the following winter of 2023-24, prior to being elected mayor, I signed a letter of support regarding the proposed development at 889 Hot Springs Road. This letter of support was used by the proponent when bringing what I understand to be an application of on a related matter to what council is discussing tonight, and that was done in February 2024. As chair of this meeting, and to avoid any perception of bias or not being amenable to persuasion or having a closed mind, I will recuse myself from this meeting when items 10E, if there's discussion arising from correspondence, and item 16B come up before council. Any other conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Seeing none, I will move to item 7 on the agenda, which is adoption of council minutes. Could I have a motion that we move A and B? Moved by Councillor Vitals, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and those minutes are adopted. Is there any business this evening arising from those minutes? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. If I could just make a quick comment and an apology. On page 8, this is with in relation to a quite a wide-ranging motion that I had last council meeting. And I admit this was my failure, my mistake on this. I had quite a wide-ranging and broad and vague motion, as you recall, and we did discuss it, and it was considered by you maybe to go to Cal, and I didn't quite read the tea leaves properly or the implications of my vote, and I failed to vote, in fact, for my own motion. So my apologies. Now, I think that we are mitigating this, and in discussion with staff and with your worship, I think that we have come together with a motion that's acceptable to me, and I hope palatable to the rest of us here in council. I think you've worded it in a more specific way, and that's something that we're going to see at the end of tonight, and we'll be discussing it in a couple of days. So I just wanted to apologize to the public and to my colleagues here for that mistake, and I appreciate that we've engaged Mayor Tallon with BCTS, and that we are well on our way to having a good, fulsome discussion on the implications of forestry in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Yes, I'm putting forward a notice of motion at the end of the meeting, and discuss that at that time. Any other business arising from correspondence? Seeing none, I will move to item 9 on our agenda, which is a delegation this evening. Mr. Michael DeYoung and Mr. Jeff Watson from the Bridal Veil Mountain Resort. And I think they have a presentation for us. So I turn the podium and the floor over to you, gentlemen.
Your Worship, good evening, members of council. Thank you very much for the privilege of being here, and members of the village staff. Amanda, thank you for helping to coordinate our appearance. I am here with President Jeff Wilson, Bridal Veil Mountain Resort Ltd. And what we wanted to do is provide you with a bit of an update. Now, we have the requisite PowerPoint that I think has been provided to you. We don't actually propose to go through that page by page. What we would like to do is alert you to some developments that have taken place since Mr. Wilson was here earlier, several years ago. and I think you are familiar in general terms with the proposed all-season resort for the Bridalveil area, just along the regional district border with Chilliwack, around the Falls Golf Course area. That work to develop that proposal has been ongoing for a number of years. Mr. Wilson has been involved with that work. I, by way of background, after spending a few decades in another political forum in Victoria, joined Bridalveil last fall, and have been working with Jeff and the small team since then. The triggering event for us being here today and wanting to have as much of a conversation as anything else with you as the village leadership was the granting a month and a half ago by the Mountain Resorts branch of the provincial government stage 1 approval to proceed with further planning for the what today we are still referring to as Bridalveil Mountain Resort. That's what prompted us to write to you. We see this opportunity, if it is to be fully realized, as involving partnerships with all the regional area communities, perhaps most particularly Harrison Hot Springs as the lighthouse resort community in this part of British Columbia. We see some real opportunities for collaboration. Now, I say that with the following caveat: don't wax your skis yet. There is a lot of work to do. We're thrilled that the province has, one, designated us as the sole proponent for the development of this resort opportunity, and invited us to now prepare what is termed in the policy the formal proposal for moving forward. That is likely an 18 to 24 month exercise. Our attention is going to be very much focused in the months ahead on the types of technical studies that you would all be very familiar with, whether it's geotechnical, environmental, access corridors, all of the things transportation related. So we're going to be busy there, but we also want to ensure that our regional partners, we see as our regional partners, are kept apprised of where we're at and how we see the timing. We of course will be, and already are, fully engaged with the Stolo family of First Nations, and I'm happy to report to the council the developing partnership for both the resort and the adjoining town site residential development is taking on some very positive dimensions here of late. And we see that as an absolutely advisable and ultimately necessary component of moving forward the partnership we're developing with the Stolo First Nation. So our concern was that, having provided you with a written notice of the favorable decision that we received from the provincial government, from the regulator, that perhaps there would be some concern that, oh my goodness, bulldozers are going to be climbing up the mountain and work resuming, and we don't really know what's going on. That is not the case. We are very much in the planning stages and have a lot of work to do now with respect to these various studies. But I will say this: the decision by the regulator means we have a a real project. And candidly, we are excited about the possibility that this represents for the region, for the Eastern Fraser Valley. And when I think about the possibilities of collaboration, the Bridal Veil area, the valley is a beautiful, beautiful location. There's no hot spring, at least not that we're aware of. So the opportunity for us to collaborate in the future in terms of the tourism traffic that this will opportunities that this will develop is very real. Why don't I turn it over to Mr. Wilson and then any questions or thoughts, and please don't, if you would like us to go through page by page or you have questions about anything in the proposal, please fire them to us, but you've seen enough PowerPoints over the years. You don't need us to take up your time reviewing what you can read.
I believe it's called Death by PowerPoint. But thank you. Again, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to come here, and we are excited. The decision by the province breathes life into this project. It provides new opportunities commercially as well. One of the things that I think it's important for us to highlight to the council is two things. One is our commitment to working with local Stalo First Nations communities, which there are several in the region. And we are now in the process of meeting with and working with several of them to find and to jointly choose service providers, whether it be environmental agencies or geotechnical groups, ones that they have particular experience with and trust with, to start to do the work on the lands themselves that are required in the initial phases of planning. So it's been a long time to get here, and we're very excited to get there and to do that work. And I do want to leave you with one thing, is that the province a couple of years ago came up with the concept of a tourism corridor. And that tourism corridor runs from Vancouver up the Sunshine all the way to Whistler Blackcomb. I think there's a unique opportunity to do something similar in the Eastern Fraser Valley. We have Hope on the one side, that is the gateway to the canyon. The canyon is a unique experience with a unique area of the province, and it's very accessible. This community is really the one that got it all started. And I think that by having a world-class resort right next door, there's so many opportunities to work together on a regional basis to cross-promote and to see a flourishing economy in the tourism sector like this area has never seen before. And so these are the kinds of discussions and the kinds of conversations that we're hoping to engage with you and with the local businesses here over the next 5 years, and to start planning, future planning for the region. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, Mr. DeYoung. And apologies, I think I introduced you as Mr. Watson. I misstated your name. My apologies. A couple questions. I think you explained you've got phase 1 approval, and the next phase is approximately 18 to 24 months before you get to a stage 2. Is that correct? Something give or take, roughly?
It's hardly a science.
Yeah.
But realistically, given the nature of the work that needs to be done, the compilation of some seasonal data, and candidly, the track record of the decision-making process in Victoria tells us that 18 to 24 months we'd be happy with.
Can I ask how many stages there are before?
3.
There's 3 stages. So, yeah. Okay. Well, you're a third of the way there then. That's encouraging, I guess, if you take that. I think it's an interesting opportunity for this area, and yeah, I can envision a number of opportunities to leverage both Harrison Hot Springs and a resort at Bridal Veils to attract visitors to this area. So, any other questions from council or comments? Oh, I see lots of hands. I'm going to start with Councillor Vital, and I'll work my way around.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind answering. You indicated that you have been in talks with Stolo, which I believe includes Siem and other surrounding First Nations. Have you approached or been in contact with Stehelas First Nations, which is not part of Stolo, and we sit on their traditional lands here? Thank you.
Very good question. When we started the project, originally through the advice and guidance of the People of the River Referral Office, the PRO as it's referred to, and the province of British Columbia, we reached out to all 24 nations, and you're correct in the assessment of Stehelas, and that's an interesting history there on that. But there certainly is an independence there shown by Stehelas from other local First Nations. Stehelas actually responded by saying that they did not want to be part of the ongoing process, that they didn't have an interest in it. So.
All right, so have you received official support from Stolo yet?
The question of official support comes down to, what do you mean by that? It's a relationship that's built over time and over years. And so what it starts with is we've come to very respectfully, hand in hand, to the various communities. Just understand there's 12 overlapping claims in the area we're in. And then there's other, that mountain range is seen as an area that has interest by all 24 of the bands, really. And so we have gone out to all 24 bands saying we want to engage with you. One of the biggest things that we were waiting for was the stage 1 approval. That was the indication to several of the bands that there's a real project here, and that it's worth their time to engage with this project now that we've received, we've been moved into what's called the formal proposal stage. And so that's the green light for several of them to engage with us, several of which we've been meeting with and continue to meet with. So the only time you would see an official endorsement would be at the end of the regulatory process. Because right now we are going to be working alongside with the local Stolo communities to figure out what the land is about, to figure out what the capacity of the land is, to see if there's anything that would prevent a project like this from going forward. So it's a partnership of study, and it's a partnership of looking into the possibilities economically, ecologically, culturally, and it's an exercise of building trust throughout a multi-year process. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. That's helpful. Thank you. A couple more questions, Mayor Tallon. I'm sure you're aware of our local ski resort here, Sasquatch Mountain, located up in the Harrison Mills area. What I see is really two different resorts that serve two different, types of people. Sasquatch Mountain, we like to consider it our local. In fact, my kids learned to ski and snowboard there. So I'm wondering, have you engaged with Sasquatch Mountain Resort at this time? Or again, are you waiting for the stage 2 proposal? Thank you.
Yeah, there's no common ownership between the companies, so there's nothing like that. However, if you take a look, that I've spent a lot of time myself traveling, visiting ski area resorts in Europe and the Alps in both France and Switzerland and other areas. And if you take a page from the playbook of what they do in the Alps, is all the ski resorts locally work together. They view it as they're there to build the pie out, and then they all can have a slice of it. And the other thing too is, if you look at the skiing community, is small resorts get people started in skiing at an affordable price point that you can bring your children to. They have a profoundly important role in building up the user base. You never replace that. You always need and want to have local mountains that are there for a local driving distance at a price point that you can bring all 5 kids up, kind of thing. So in a sense, it's not a competitive landscape, it's a complementary landscape between a project like ours. And in fact, there's been There's cases in the United States where if there are local resorts that are floundering, some of the big resorts have stepped in to assist because they realize that they're actually building up tomorrow's generation of customers. So we don't see ourselves in a competitive realm with, I mean, I grew up skiing Hemlock. That's where I learned how to ski. It was where my school went to and where I spent a lot of time as a kid. But yeah, there is not a competitive nature there. But I think that if you have, the Fraser Valley actually has a low per capita amount of people that ski and snowboard. It's hard to believe. If you go further in town into Vancouver, it's much higher. And that's because of the sheer availability of local mountains. We have one out here. Whereas you have Grouse, you have Seymour, you have all these other options that are very close into the city. So by adding more, we would expect to see from the market data that the usership within the Fraser Valley would go up. The other thing too to remember is that it's not just, I mean, we talk about the ski side of it, but this would truly be an all-season resort like a Whistler or a Big White. So you'd see year-round traffic that would be a boost to the local economy.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. And my final question was, you mentioned, I'm sorry, Mr. De Jong, did you want to?
No, simply this, Councillor, the other thing you'll be able to look forward to is one of the obligations we have through this stage 2 process is to prepare detailed market analysis to validate what we believe to be the case from our initial internal reviews. But the Mountain Resorts branch will require something more robust than what we think.
Thank you. And my final question is, you mentioned you see the benefits here to Harrison as a tourist resort area. One other avenue I would encourage you, if you haven't already, is be in contact with Tourism Fraser Valley, which includes a multitude of communities in the Fraser Valley. Yeah, I would encourage you to contact and perhaps work with them also. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Pacho.
My apologies. You haven't presented this to the regional district yet, have you?
Not formally, no.
No, okay, because they'll be part, I believe they would be a part of this. It comes under Electoral Area D, I believe. And some time ago, before this project got going, there was a hold up on that whole mountain due to a seismic situation. So that's what you're referring to when you have to do your environmental assessment. Okay. And also, Mike, at the time, I'm going back a while here, there was also no mention, it was just going to be the gondola only, but no mention of a resort, because at the meeting, I think it was at the regional district, there was a lot of feedback from the businesses and that they weren't sure whether they wanted to have another village up there. So obviously things have changed.
Well, there's no question there are going to be some differing opinions. So just, before granting us sole proponent status and stage 1 approval, the province undertook a very extensive public outreach and derived a whole series of commentaries and responses. That has prompted them to invite us to move forward. So they still view this as a net positive. I'd like to come back to something you mentioned, though, because you will have all been familiar with the proposal from the Shem First Nation around the gondola.
Yeah.
One of the things I detected when I was invited to join this project was how an element of competition, even adversarialism, had developed between that project and this far more extensive all-season resort proposal. There is no reason for that. These projects can coexist and they can benefit one another. And that's the approach that we intend to take in terms of discussions with the Siam First Nation. How can we work together to make both projects better, if there is still an interest in proceeding with both projects? So that's the attitude that we want to take. If you think about the golden triangle of activities that 10 years from now could exist, right here, right within 20 minutes of this spot we're standing on. Think about the opportunities for those folks like me who don't ski often, but when they do, would very much look forward to sitting in the hot springs of Harrison Village to cure. I'm not much of a skier. I'm more of an expert at the après ski, if you know what I mean. But there is the synergies here are very, very positive, and so I'm glad you brought that up, Councillor.
Thank you, and it would save a trip going to Whistler as well when it's built.
We all sort of say that in jest, but Jeff mentioned something and it bears repeating. This market is woefully underserviced when it comes to an all-season resort, in particular the ski snowboard dimension. Anyone from Burnaby East is going to be tempted, very tempted, to come east instead of go up the sea to sky. That will benefit Sasquatch, that will benefit Manning, that will benefit what we hope to see as a Bridal Veil mountain resort at that time of year. So you think about the fastest growing place in Canada and the fact that you would be able to get to an all-season resort that is located literally 10 or 15 minutes off of Highway 1 without the need to construct a major mountain road.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Well, thank you for the presentation. Just curious, is the mountain too steep for a funicular to take passengers up rather than a gondola? It just seems to me in Europe, every time I run across them, they're so efficient.
Something of an expert on that in Mr. Wilson.
I've spent a lot of time traveling gondolas, trams, funiculars, and I'm learning that actually there's a difference between all of these product lines, and usually they're the same manufacturers. It's kind of like a bridge, in a sense, where you say, well, do you want a suspension bridge, or do you want, a traditional arched bridge, kind of like the Mission Bridge is, or, do you want something more like the Agassiz Bridge where you have suspension cables? It really depends on the terrain as to what the most efficient way forward is. Gondolas, we would probably be looking at up to 2 8 to 10 passenger gondolas that would take people from the valley floor all the way up the mountain. It would mean that you can get up there without a vehicle, which means all the stuff in the Alpine is green, it's vehicleless. We're not running vehicles around there. You can have a distinct village community up there that's all walkable. It's a better user experience. But gondolas are, given the elevation and given how steep the terrain is, gondolas would be the preferred method from an engineering perspective, we've been told by the experts on that from the companies that construct them, and from our planning group as well. Also, the great thing about gondolas is they provide, you could do a 10-seat gondola car where you could have several thousand people. Oh, there you go. Actually, if you take a look at the screen behind you there, this is the preliminary idea, the concept of you would have a village in the base there that you would park your car and you'd ditch that thing and you'd get on a gondola. And so there's several resort properties in the Swiss Alps that do it this way. And gondolas are probably the most efficient way of moving people upgrade. They use a lot less energy. They're a much greener solution, and there's a lot less impact to the land. So it's the preferred method. The other thing is if you built a road with the amount of, how you'd have to navigate it, it would probably have to come up the rear of the Chilliwack River Valley, and that would be an hour-and-a-half drive, whereas it would be an 8-minute gondola ride from the base to the top. And so you've already set yourself up as you've gotten a pretty good experience just by visiting and coming to the resort. You got a gondola out of it, so that was kind of fun. Yeah, and then a second gondola. The other thing about the resort is it's phasable, which doesn't usually happen. If you take a look at the project that was proposed in Squamish, called up there for years, that project would have had to have been built out in one full blow, which is a massive expense and infrastructure costs. This could be broken up into 4 phases. The first phase being larger than Hemlock and Manning put together, but financially and commercially viable at that too, because it has a natural 20-60-20 spread, which is 20% beginner, 60% intermediate, and 20% black diamond runs. So that's kind of the golden formula for the success of a commercial resort. You need that kind of terrain, and we would have 4 distinct areas by which we could fill that out as the market dictates too. So from a risk management aside, it's a much safer play by having something that you can build out in phases, that the first phase is viable in and of itself. So, but yeah, the gondolas move more people, and they move them up in about 8 minutes, so it's a fairly speedy ride.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Schweinfels.
Thank you, Mayor Town. My colleagues asked most of the questions that I wanted to ask. One thing, though, and Hemlock was mentioned, and for generations we've been provided with wonderfully elaborate plans. And one time I think there was going to be a gondola from here to the top of Hemlock. And I suspect that, like everything, it's money is the issue. And traditionally, if you look at Sun Peaks, it was Nippon Cable. Intra-West was really big in the 90s and 2000s. Do you have enough financial backing to make this happen, or is this a pipe dream?
I'm getting too old for pipe dreams, Councillor. No, it's not a pipe dream. Is there a remaining task around finalizing the financing? Yeah, of course there is. And candidly, these are not great days domestically to be in the capital markets. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I will tell you this: internationally, this is and domestically, but internationally, this ticks all the boxes for what people believe the Canadian experience should include. And so we're optimistic. Jeff and the project itself, if you look up at that slide, the words BHA, I point that out only because these are the resort this is a resort development company that developed Blackcomb, that developed Big White. They're also not in the business of pipe dreams. I mean, the fundamentals are sound. The market is there. The location is fantastic. So all the ingredients are there. I will say this unapologetically: to the extent that conceptually the village leaders view this as a potentially positive development, recognizing that you will want to reserve judgment until you have seen the final formal proposal. But to the extent that you are able and prepared to say this is worth pursuing to see what that looks like because the potential benefits are positive, that is helpful. It beats the alternative, and we've been very gratified by the level of encouragement and support that has developed, particularly in the last number of months since we've been designated the sole proponent.
That sounds great. I'm glad to hear that. And I also noticed the name Aquilini on some of this paperwork as well, so that should help. Just a warning, you know, the valley, especially around here, is full of passionate environmentalists. So please make sure to put environmental design as the forefront of your proposal, and I think you'll get more green lights that way than red lights. That would be my comment. And I think if done right, you know, and if this happens, staff and council, future generations of council have to understand that this will have profound, huge opportunities for our village, for increased tourism. Our visitation is going to be huge. Just imagine the Tulip Festival that happened over the last 3 weeks. 100,000 people came in. This is going to be a common occurrence if this happens. If you hit all the red lights in Agassiz, you're there in 14 minutes to Highway 1. This could be huge for us here in Harrison. Huge opportunities and possible concerns. So I think we need to keep an eye on this proposal, and thank you for the update.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz, and environmental green lights early on a Monday night for that. Wish you every success. When I look at this, I think our council, the caveat I can see is, and just having had the opportunity to enjoy the Trans-Canada from here to Vancouver in the last week a couple of times, I think advising the province that if you're successful, that will create incredible demands on Highway 1, at least to interchange 135, and it's going to need additional capacity if you're successful. And that success, having people be able to travel easily by car, as opposed to what I enjoyed on the weekend last week, is just going to enhance everything. So we'll be watching this, and I can think when you get to a phase 2 and you get green lights, we'll be pressing on the province, perhaps with your assistance, for capacity increases on the Trans-Canada from Chilliwack, wherever they end up finishing this current multi-phased approach through Abbotsford or maybe Chilliwack, I don't know. But that would be a benefit for all, I think.
Your Worship, I happen to know a guy that knows a little bit about moving those kinds of things forward. But on that front, we've engaged a little bit to do with traffic studies, just on the front end for feasibility. There's about 9.5 million cars that go by that exit every year right now. We'd be looking at most a 2 to 3% increase. And given the times, it's actually a lot less than you'd think. Yes, the exit needs to be updated. Those exits would have to be updated and brought up to speed. But if you remember that there was a road called the Sea to Sky that needed replacement for many, many, many years, and then it took a really big project for the provincial government to finally capitulate and spend a little bit of money and finish that off. So this could be maybe used as a political football to help assist with that too. So.
Thank you, gentlemen. Noted.
Thank you for your time, Your Worship, members of council and staff, and we will remain in touch and keep you apprised as developments of note and significance occur. Thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you. All right. That takes us to item 10 on correspondence, and I will ask right now, is there any discussion arising from, let me get it right here, which one was it? I wrote it down. Is there any discussion tonight arising from 10, the correspondence under 10E? If there is, I'll recuse myself for that discussion. Is there discussion on item 10E?
Mayor Talent, sorry, if I could. There are a couple of reasonable questions here. Is this something we're going to be talking about at the end of the night when we discuss this project?
I just need to know if there's going to be discussion when we review the correspondence on Well, maybe I'm ahead of myself here. Let's receive the correspondence, and then we can get into discussion. Sorry, my apologies. Can I have a motion to receive the correspondence A to E? A to F. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on that? I don't see any. Call the vote, all in favor, and that correspondence received. Now, item 11, business arising from correspondence. Is there any business tonight, any discussion anyone wants to raise in relation to item E? Councillor Swift, is that a yes?
Well, I was thinking about discussing that, but I believe that most of these questions are going to be answered during the public hearing. I believe that at the end result, the motion tonight is to go forward to a public hearing, and these questions can probably be better answered during that process. Is that? I think so. These are very reasonable questions. I appreciate them being posed by Mr. Webster, but it sounds like a better forum would be during those that procedure for the public hearing. So I'm not going to specifically raise it tonight.
So with that said, there's not going to be a discussion on item E, so I will remain in the chair and ask if there's anything anyone wants to raise on the remaining items of correspondence. Councillor Faccio.
It's the E, page 19, the letter of support for the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society. Request for a letter of support. I'd like to make that motion.
Councillor Faccio, you're moving that we write a letter of support for the Historical Society
Yes.
to apply for that grant.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Any discussion on that? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I will be supporting this motion. The Agassiz Harrison Museum Society plays a very important role in preserving and sharing the history of our community. Their work helps connect residents and visitors to the stories, people, and events that have shaped Harrison Hot Springs and the surrounding area. Supporting this community gaming grant application is a way for us to recognize that value. These funds help sustain programming, educational opportunities, and community engagement, things that might not otherwise be possible without this kind of external support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Faccio, you moved it. Do you have a comment on? Your light is on, is all I'm asking.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, okay. I'll move over to Councillor. I think this is a great idea, and a letter of support is a good decision. I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that carries. Any other discussion on correspondence tonight? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I would like to speak to item C, email dated April 21st from Gary Webster, requesting clarification on council decision on flood and wildfire motion. I do appreciate Mr. Webster taking the time to share his perspective. And I want to especially thank our CAO for his comprehensive and accurate response to Mr. Webster's inquiries. As indicated by our CAO, no two emergencies are the same. And as such, any response by first responders or external agencies must address the emergency at the time, along with coordination by many other agencies. Regarding Mr. Webster's request as to the justification of council not supporting a motion on flood and wildfire risk, I just want to remind those in the gallery and those listening online that I have repeatedly encouraged any resident to reach out and contact myself through the village office directly or my council email, or speak directly to myself following any council meeting. I welcome questions about how or why I vote on matters before council. This is accountability. This is transparency, which is essential to our residents. And in closing, I'm pleased to see a revised notice of motion that has been submitted by Mayor Tallon regarding Mr. Webster's concern that will appear on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any other discussion on correspondence? Councillor Schweinmans?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Commenting on some of them, to tell you the truth. So the first one, item A on page 13, the letter from the City of Langford. This is the change to permanent daylight savings time is something that baffled me. As someone who's looked into circadian rhythms and who had young kids who are really hard to get up in the morning, I think this was a mistake by the province to go to permanent daylight savings, and I'm not so sure that many in the public are aware of this. It's going to really shorten the morning for students getting to work, and I appreciate that this letter is making light of the fact that folks like bus drivers and people and getting people to school is going to be more difficult. I don't like the fact that we've gone to daylight savings time, and I think we ought to support the City of Langford in their resolution. I think it's the resolution to the UBCM, or through the UBCM to the province, and I think we ought to support them, and I'll put a motion towards that.
Councillor Schweinmans is a motion to, just want to get the words right, Councillor, support the City of Langford's resolution, and that's on page 16.
That's right.
Correct, of our council package. And a seconder to that.
For discussion, Your Worship.
I can invite Councillor Faccio. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Faccio.
Yeah, I personally do not see a major difference. As a former school bus driver, the mornings were always black before this hour business changed. So the kids were always out there in darkness in the mornings when I used to pick them up, especially in the January, the November, December, January months. So I don't think it's going to be a major change. I mean, I think this, I haven't personally heard myself anything, unless our staff has, or from our school district, about this causing any problems, but I don't know. I don't know whether it needs our endorsement or not, but I'll leave it for other councillors to decide.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Schweinmans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yeah, that's a great point. And, you know, when you read through this, it's not really just about the school bus. It's about active transportation infrastructure grants. The province has taken away these grants, the BC Active Transportation Grants. And this letter supports the reinstating of that funding, which I think would support our village as well in some cases. So I think it'd be worthwhile to support this resolution. Thanks.
Thank you. I've read these resolutions and from the City of Langford with a lot of interest. I do think prior to it getting dark earlier without the switching to standard time this fall, I think it'd be appropriate to make sure our school crosswalks are well lit, well marked. And I like the idea of making sure students have access to visibility enhancing jackets and vests. I don't know if it's standard here. It might be, having lived a number of years in the subarctic, and I can assure you, sunrise at 20 after 10 means going to school at 8 o'clock is dark. But it was normalized, and crosswalks are well lit, and children wore bright clothes, or there's just embedded reflective stripes in clothing, which is pretty standard. But I don't, I think there's value in supporting this motion. I like the forward thinking of the city of Langford, sort of trying to anticipate what might be a challenge for some families or some students in the fall. So
It may help us get some street lighting that we so desperately need, honestly.
it might.
We have to look forward to that kind of thing.
We should talk to the school board and make sure, and highways, and make sure that when it is dark at the opening bell, that things are well lit for drop-offs and not counting on residual light. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that carries. Anything else, Councillor Swinburne?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon. I do want to comment again on Mr. Webster's letter, and I see that he's in the audience here, and I just wanted to express my oh, he's not in the audience, he left. Anyways, wanted to express my gratitude for him and for anybody who's expresses an interest in what we do here in council. It means people are listening. And the fact is, and I alluded to this a few minutes earlier, my motion was very broad, very vague, and probably unfair to bring to you folks in that format. And I appreciated the discussion. You know, I'm passionate about that. And ultimately, staff and Mayor Talon kind of honed it into what we really need to talk about. I have an opportunity through Section 131 of the Community Charter to change my vote. I won't do that, respecting the fact that I think he's got a better motion, and I'm respecting the fact that I think we're going to be passing that and having a good cow on this topic. So I won't do that today, but I wanted to express my gratitude for people who expressed an interest in it. Item D, last year we supported the Moosehide campaign, and I think we ought to again, and I'll put a motion in place to, I don't know if a motion is required, but we need to support that. Do we need a motion for that, corporate officer? For the Moosehide campaign?
We might. They asked us to light landmarks and monuments in a moosehide color and a golden yellow to raise awareness. So we might need a motion to, if that's possible on our lighting, to emphasize that, like other campaigns, purple lights and those kind of things. So yeah, and you'll move that? I'll happily second that. Discussion on that motion. I think it's great to raise awareness about this. And I should have pinned it to, I don't know, my hand or something to wear my moose hide from last year, and I forgot, and that's on me. But I have it, and I'll be happily wearing it for the next several council meetings while we have our lights tuned to golden yellow, if that motion passes. Any other discussion? I don't see any. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. One more, I'm sorry. And I'll try to do this quickly. I've had lots of calls and texts and conversations with people who are concerned about this wildlife issue. And as you know, we had Earth Day, so there's lots of conversation around that. And I spoke with staff this morning, and we identified a need to see some progress in some of our bylaws. We learned a lot last year, and I appreciate and thank you for adopting a more progressive waste management bylaw. But staff learned a lot, we all learned a lot, the community learned a lot, and I think it's time to fill in some of those gaps. And in talking to staff this morning, they agreed. You know, if what I'm asking for, what I'm moving for today is to direct staff to look into some new bylaws and to fill in some of the gaps of our current bylaws to help manage wildlife in our village. It'll help us with three things. Number one, it's going to provide clarification to the public. Number two, it's going to provide enhanced enforcement tools for our staff and for bylaws. And number three, it's going to position us and our village as leaders in wildlife care and responsibility. So my motion again today would be to direct staff to develop bylaws and tools to support the wildlife situation in the village. I've already talked to staff about it. They've agreed. That would be my motion right now. Thank you.
I'll second that for discussion, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Schweinbenz, and that was seconded by Councillor Pacho. Discussion, Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Your Worship. through you to staff, can you just clarify briefly what I thought our existing bylaw covered the tools to let the public know what's expected of them from that perspective. Am I correct? Thank you.
Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Facio. There are some limitations with our current bylaw, the way it's worded. So, for example, our bylaw officers went out several times last year to provide notices to people that their bins were placed curbside prior to the time frame that they're allowed under the bylaw. However, it's a little bit arbitrary because people could, the way the bylaw is worded, have their waste collection bins at the top of their driveway, and that would be acceptable. And that doesn't really mitigate bears accessing the waste. So there are some other bylaws. They're called wildlife attractant management bylaws. It would be quite a large project, but it's something that we can explore for sure. Those types of bylaws address not just those residences that are on the waste collection program, but also stratas and businesses throughout the village, as well as other attractants like fruit trees, bees are an attractant, grease, oil, those types of things. So there are some limitations to our current bylaw that we could look at implementing another bylaw to deal with wildlife attractants. Having said that, it's probably a larger scale project that will need some budget and some coordination between us and our current waste collection service provider. So,
thank you. That's great. That's explained that to me. But it's going to take a bit of time for the bylaw to be effective. So, part of this motion, I would like to suggest that mid-May, I believe, our tax notices will be going out to all the residents and businesses, and I think that would be an appropriate time to have some wording in there to remind the residents of exactly what our corporate officer has just mentioned. No, it means you have to keep that green bin in your house or in your garage, not surrounded around your house, and also to let the businesses know that their garbage, which is privately collected, that the lids have to be shut down tight and not garbage piled to the top and overflowing. So I think that would be an appropriate time to get that message in with the tax notices. Everybody gets the tax notice, so I had a brief conversation with the CFO today, and he said that, yeah, that could be part of because we do put in some suggestion or some reminders in our taxes every year, whatever it may be, which is very helpful for the residents. So I would suggest that be part of the motion to add that to to our tax notices as a reminder to such time the bylaw comes forward. Thank you.
I'll second that amendment. Mayor
So
Dallin.
motion to amend from Councillor Fascio and Councillor Schweinmans will second that. Any discussion on the amendment? I see none. I'll call the vote. All in favor of amending the motion? Great. So we have an amended motion. Any further discussion on now the amended motion? Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Just a comment, and I want to send a shout out to our operations staff. I have noticed that there have been some of that bear-proof garbage cans that are currently being installed in the village to replace just the standard garbage cans. In fact, I received quite a thank you from residents on Chestnut, and very thankful for it being installed in Woods Park. Do you know how many other of those bear-proof bins? I know we were discussing a budget. They're quite expensive, and if we can have an idea of how many we're going to see installed this year. Thank you.
Someone, CIO, can you answer that?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Vital. Yeah, so we're looking at 4 more before the end of the season, and it'll be installed as the field teams have time to do so.
Thank you.
I read that correspondence as well, and it had me diving for the bylaws. And I think there is something in there, particularly the large bins. It says in 3C of bylaw 1172, no persons shall allow waste of any kind whatsoever to leak, spill, blow, or drop from any vehicle or container onto any street within the village. But I think it could be a lot clearer. I think there's room to make that clear, because most of the bylaw is written for the curbside residential pickup, and it wouldn't be a natural place or a natural read. I like the idea of a bylaw that has, or amending a bylaw or having a bylaw that focuses on reducing animal attractants and minimizing that risk. Any other discussion on the now amended motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And we look forward to seeing our staff report with an amended motion there. I have a couple things I'd like to just raise. Again, I appreciate Mr. Webster taking the time to write with a whole bunch of questions, and appreciate our staff comprehensively answering them. What I find often is it's really helpful to understand what's behind the questions. And Mr. Webster's original first question was, why was it determined that now is not the time to engage external agencies on flood and fire risk? And there's a comprehensive answer. And the bottom line is, the premise of the question wasn't accurate. The actual answer to the question is based on all the long answer, which I won't read. As you can see, the staff, right? It's always the time to engage external agencies and take steps to mitigate flood and fire risk, and more generally to have plans in event of emergency, and a number of things. And then other questions wanting information about the types of emergency planning the village has been doing, and very thorough answers to all those questions. And lastly, questions about gaps in capacity or gaps, and I thought the answer provided by staff was really good. It's not that there are gaps that are filled. It's rather it's a growing. It's an organic process where we learn, where we exchange information, where best practices are shared, where we develop capacity and skills and experience, and we're able to respond and have the resilience to respond to emergencies should they arise. So I like the answer, and I got the sense that Mr. Webster was a little frustrated by the answer, but again, it's just, I think there's some talk in the village that nothing is happening, and I think these answers kind of show the opposite, that there's a tremendous amount of work done by the village on emergency planning and preparing. With that, item 12 on our report is, agenda is reports from councillors. Who would like to start tonight? Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Worship. All of council, mayor and council attended the annual LML, Lower Mainland Local Government Association conference in Whistler for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. It was a very good conference, very informative. It was nice to see discussions and getting together with folks we hadn't seen for a while. There was it's quite a program that they put together, and a lot of it revolved around board governance reviews, municipal council conflicts, code of conducts, understanding voter sentiments, session, and of course there were session moderators for all of these, and there was 33 resolutions that were passed all on the same day, which was very good. And we also had a 45-minute meeting with Enbridge, And we met them last year, we met them again this year, and this year seemed a bit more promising in regards to them getting involved in the community. As they've told us, they are involved with the community with Tourism Harrison in some ways, so that's very good. So we put forward a few ideas, and they'll be getting back to us on that. But one of the most important things that happened this year at the conference was that my colleague to my right, Councillor Mickey Vidal, worked her way up from director all the way up to the first, third, second, and vice president. And now she was voted in as president of the Lower Mainland Local Government Association. And I believe that's the first time in all my time on council that we've had somebody representing this area from our little village. And I want to congratulate Councillor Vidal. She's worked very hard with this association. She's well liked, well respected, and speaks very well, and is a very good moderator as well at one of the sessions. So I would ask you to join me in thanking Councillor Vidal on becoming the Lower Mainland Local Government Association President for the next, hopefully, 2 years. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I said that. Oh, Saturday I attended Earth Day in the village, a very well organized program with our staff and the committee. It was great to see so many people come in and take interest. I believe Councillor Jackson told me virtually all the plants were gone. There was a carver that came from Hope, and maybe I would just ask the mayor himself, without going through a letter, if he would contact Vic Smith and thank him for bringing the carver over to do that carving. I thought that was a great idea, perfect location. And the CFO, I'm not going to look at his face. If we have any money lying around, I want that bench for the village. It was beautiful. I've no idea what it costs. That's Councillor Jackson wants the hockey stick one. But they were great. And the attendance was good. And I have to thank Amanda, a corporate officer, and Kaylee, a coordinator. They were both here helping out. And Kaylee told me now she has a special little camera now, which she's going to record all the goings on in the village. And guess what? I joke with people now to say our staff can find grants under rocks. They got a grant for it. Amazing. Amazing. It's just great how they get involved with our open houses, and it just shows you what a good coordinated group of people we have within our office, our crew, and of course, this lot sitting around me. So thanks very much for that. It was a great, I think the next is another thing coming up this Friday, I think at the Primary Care Centre. And I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I'd be happy to send a quick note to Mayor Smith of Hope to acknowledge us, to thank him for the carver and those ideas. Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. First of all, a thank you to Councillor Fascio for that acknowledgement. I also want to thank him once again. He was the one that led our delegates in the singing of O Canada. Well done, Councillor Fascio. A little bit more highlights on the conference. Delegates had the privilege of having the Honorable Janet Austin, our former Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, as our keynote speaker. She spoke about her experiences as Lieutenant Governor and emphasized the dedication of all public servants Janet is now the chair of the Fraser Basin Council. And the Lower Mainland LGA was proud to present a check for $4,000 as a designated conference charity. Following the opening ceremonies, a welcome reception with the opportunity for networking with other delegates. This event is always important, as informal discussions around issues facing other communities and best practices is always beneficial. The president of UBCM addressed delegates and provided information on the successes of UBCM advocacy with the province, including the withdrawal of Bill 216, the introduction of mandatory code of conduct legislation, parental leave for elected officials, and UBCM inclusion in all discussions on the revision of the Heritage Conservation Act. As Councillor Fassio said, there was an update on the UBCM governance model, including elections to the UBCM board. A really informed session on lessons learned from municipal conflicts. The panel included a special advisor under contract with the province and a lawyer who specializes in local government needs. And I had the pleasure of moderating a panel discussion on advancing diversity in local government, how to build and sustain an inclusive government, and what are the barriers facing individuals who want to run for office. A session on understanding voter sentiments for the 2026 municipal elections. This presenter was the vice president of one of North America's fastest growing market research companies. The annual general meeting was held later in that afternoon of that day and was followed by our resolution session. And as Councillor Fassio pointed out, over 35 resolutions were debated. I had the opportunity to speak to one of the resolutions submitted by your council. I'm pleased to announce that both resolutions submitted by council were endorsed by delegates and will now be forwarded to UBCM for consideration at the conference in September. The next day was a Q&A session with the Honourable Brittany Anderson, Minister of State for Local Governments and Rural Communities. A workshop on strengthening public participation was presented by the Morris J. Wask Center for Dialogue, which is a research organization in collaboration with SFU. I found it interesting that a question was asked of the delegates. What do you find is the biggest barrier to engaging the public more meaningfully? The number one answer was circulating misinformation, followed by social media, distrust, and the expectations of residents. Finally, a media panel discussion with Justin McElroy, Municipal Affairs reporter with CBC Vancouver, and Dan Famando, city columnist with the Vancouver Sun and province newspapers. Both panelists discuss what they see as current issues in local government and the emerging trends. I believe it was a most productive conference, and I do hope the rest of our council experience the benefit of attending. And I do want to put a special thank you out to Mayor Tallon and the rest of my colleagues for their support in my election. And as president, it is a 2-year term. I will be a little bit busy, but the new executive are a very good group of people who are eager to get to work. So I will be providing regular updates on Lower Mainland Local Government Association and also with UBCM. As president now, I do have a seat on UBCM board. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital and Madam President. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. I'll just take a different, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I don't really have a lot to say. However, I have been busy, believe it or not. I had Communities in Bloom on April the 21st. Again, we're sliding right around to the future. I did the library board. Books are balanced. Financial statements are all done. We had the committee of the whole with tourism. I think that was very successful. Happy with that one. I attended the cafe with the girls, and it was just wonderful to go there. Hopefully, I can bring some books if they're welcome. They're history books. I don't know whether or not that's the kind you want, but they're good reading anyway. The LMLGA is always the greatest of conferences we go to because you get to talk to people that you haven't seen one-on-one, and I really, really like that. Earth Day, what can I say? The Communities in Bloom hit a home run again. All the plants, all donated, right here. They all sold for $2 each, put a little bit of money in the committee, and I can tell you, when you have support by 4 wonderful group of people that do this, it takes my head off. I really, really love it. And we'll be back out again very quickly, and that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'll try to be quick too, but before I get started, Councillor Fasher, you mentioned that you would like to buy that bench that the Carver had made. So let's remember that when we're discussing my notice of motion for Public Art Advisory Committee next week, okay? Or next meeting. Let's remember that next meeting when we're talking about Public Art Advisory Committee. Anyways, just a couple of things in my report, and that is this past Saturday at the Earth Day in May. I have lots of thank yous, and I'm probably going to miss some, but it starts with Amanda and Kaylee. Amanda was here at 10 after 7 in the morning, and she was setting up tables, and I felt like I was getting in her way because she was just a dynamo out there, or in here, I should say. And even before that, in the weeks preceding it, she was very, very active in terms of getting our vendors and everything organized. So I really appreciate it. And Kaylee was here for most of the day as well. Amanda didn't leave till almost 2 o'clock to lock up and clean up the place. So I appreciate that. Even our public works department was involved. Stefano and Ian were here helping mop and clean up and do everything that needed to be done. We had vendors, we had arts people, we had Elizabeth here doing yoga. We had a carver out front, and Julie bought the wolf that he ended up carving so quickly. We ended up buying it. It's on my patio now. And we did pay cash for it. I mean, we paid for it, just to clarify. We had talks on wildfire, wildlife, the wilds of the East Sector. It was just a wild time. We learned a lot, and I appreciate that every single one of you were there as well, lending support and doing your various committees. We learned that there's opportunities for improvement for next year, particularly around marketing and getting more people out. So we're going to take that back to committee and do our best we can. 2 other quick comments. I like your comment on the bears, making sure that public out there know that we need to keep our garbage safe and secured all week and get it out at the curb at an appropriate time, and that includes businesses as well. Please lock up your bins. UBCM, very quickly, because it's all been said. Very proud of my colleagues here, particularly Mickey, for not only leading a lot of the discussion, but becoming the president of it. And we had an outsized impact as a small village, singing O Canada and having lots of fun. And for me, the value is in the one-on-one conversations. I talk to people who have environmental committees in their small towns and learn some pearls there. I talk to a couple of people who are part of the Whistler MRDT committee, as an example. And I got some pearls, and it's really, really super helpful. And there was one thing that one of the last talks was the SFU WASC Center, talking about how we can get people more participating in our village culture and political culture and political process. One of the ideas that came up was a citizens assembly or community assembly, I think they call it. I hope that now that we've adopted our DEI program, that we can look at some of these opportunities to involve more people, because it became clear on the day before by, I think it was Leisure Consulting. They said that the satisfaction of society towards politicians is at an all-time low. And it's low at the federal level, at the provincial level, and I think we are only slightly better at the municipal level. So we have work to do, and we need to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinmans. Now, reports from Mayor. I'm going to summarize. I was an exchange I had this morning with a resident on the pathway around the lagoon. I was biking very slowly around the lagoon, and a resident stopped me and said, "This is pedestrians only," and commented that it's not for bikes. And I took that. I said, "Okay, you're right. I guess it is marked pedestrians only." And I've been thinking about that for a good part of the day, and kind of just mulling over that, because not only did we talk about that, the cycling, the person I spoke to also raised, on the weekend there were these electric e-scooters, and they were using the lagoon as the Agassiz Speedway, just lap after lap. Before council tonight, I was told there was a large number of motorbikes for some reason on the plaza for some reason. And these kind of things just highlighted for me sort of the challenges. Obviously, council and the community wants people to enjoy the waterfront and be able to do so safely. And we also want to promote active transportation and have that safe. And some of these things just sort of, sometimes they, and no pun intended, run into each other, and got me thinking about the pathway around the lagoon and my experience in other communities with pathways of similar size and nature. They're shared pathways. And anyway, I was thinking about it, and I don't have any great light switch moment, no epiphany, but it certainly raised in my mind questions about, we do have a lot of rules. Usually the rules are rooted in public safety and enjoyment and those kind of things. And I kind of just wondering in my own mind if the safety on the beachfront creates different challenges on a warm summer day versus a little bit of a drizzle and a north wind in the second week of February. But nevertheless, we do have a lot of rules for safety. There's the barbecues, and it goes on. And we still want people to enjoy themselves and feel welcome, but also be safe. And I don't know, I don't have any great insight other than there are challenges in finding that right balance and what that right balance is. And maybe I'll leave it at that for tonight. Attended a couple of things. Committee of the whole meeting. Just hats off to our tourism, Harrison River Valley tourism folks. Boy, do they have their finger on the pulse on how to maximize benefit and work with local businesses and how to market this area. Also to our staff who work closely with them to do those things and have very successful events like Canada Day, Lights on the Lake, and other things. Sasquatch Days, many others. So that was a really good and encouraging Committee of the Whole meeting for myself. The Lower Mainland Local Government Association Conference, again, I think it highlighted, and I'll just quickly say, that our small village sort of punches above its weight class, both with membership on the executive committee, but also the thoughtful resolutions that go through and the thoughtful consideration and how, and I could see this with every councillor, how we're treated by other delegates. There's respect, there's encouragement, and lots of collaboration from fellow colleagues. I also came by Earth Day in May. I was here. I thought it was really interesting. I got a chance to talk about the bears, and I apparently am one of the first people to see the bear with the yellow tag in its ear, and I saw that last Saturday morning, so I made a note of that so that they knew it had been seen. And I also on Saturday attended Rotary. The Rotary 50/50 district had their conference at the resort on the weekend. They invited me for lunch. I learned a lot. This is, well, first, it's an international. It includes Washington State and British Columbia. So that was really neat. And I learned a lot about their campaign to eradicate polio across the world and what they've done to do that. And if I heard right, I think they're 3 months into a 3-year World Health Organization window to not have any cases of crippling polio outbreak in the world. So hopefully that continues, and their work in supporting the eradication of that disease can be concluded. They did a lot. The Rotary Club, I enjoy the Rotary trails in Chilliwack along the Vedder River many times. It's beautiful. It's a shared multi-use path the whole way, even narrower than ours. But anyway, they maybe do have conflicts, but it's heavily used, and they really do contribute. I know on the Sunday, they had a couple of work teams going out, working with the stream keepers, the Miami River stream keepers, on removing some invasive species along the riverbank, which is great. And they also were at Earthwise doing, I think, helping out there as well. And just a wonderful organization, really nice people. I'm glad I had that opportunity. And that concludes my report. Reports and minutes from committees and commissions. We have 4 here, A to D. Could I have a motion that these minutes be adopted? A to D.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. I think I saw your hand first. Any discussion on that? I see none. I'll call the vote. All in favor. And that also carries. Item 15 on the agenda, reports from staff. I don't believe we have any tonight, which takes us to bylaws. 16A. Do I turn this over to you, Chief Financial Officer or Corporate Officer?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yes, this tax rate bylaw received first 3 readings at the last meeting, so there's no associated staff report, but the recommendation is that tax rate bylaw number 1238, 2026 be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that motion? I see none. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that is adopted. Item B, I will recuse myself and, CAO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Before you depart, I hate to do this to Councillor Vital, but you are Deputy Mayor. We forgot to advise you before the meeting started, so I apologize, but you will be chairing the meeting after Mayor Tallon leaves the room.
Thank you, CAO Cook. That would have been my first question because I wasn't certain if Councillor Faccio was still Deputy Mayor, but it's been adding to Councillor Vital's increasingly long list of responsibilities. I recuse myself and I turn the chair over to you.
Thank you, CAO Cook. I believe our planning consultant, Ken Cossey, is joining us online. Is that correct? Thank you.
I have a large echo.
Yeah, can we have it too on our end? How's that? Did that fix it?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We can. You were logged in twice here, so you should be good to go now.
Oh. Already. Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, we're talking about 889 Hot Springs Road, C2 Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1244. As we all know, the applicant wishes to subdivide the parent parcel into 2 lots. As a part of the future commercial uses of the lots, a zoning bylaw text amendment is required. This required amendment was not first noted by staff at the time of the original application, but has since been rectified, and when we reviewed the file, and we acknowledge this mistake, and I apologize for any inconvenience arising from it. In order to proceed with this recently issued development permit and development variance permit, a zoning bylaw text amendment to address the permitted uses in the C2 zone is required. As we're all aware, the zone is zoned C2 and is located adjacent to Hot Springs Road. Along all boundaries of this site, the parcels of adjacent land uses are zoned for R2 residential activities. If approved by the village's approving officer, proposed Lot 1 would be larger than the minimum requirement, and same with proposed Lot 2. The OCP designation is low-density residential, so the continued use of the site for commercial purposes is governed by the following objective, as outlined in Section 7.2F of the current OCP, which is identified at the top of page 54 of your report. So now when we're looking at the zoning discussions, mini storage facilities, also known as self-storage units, have become increasingly popular in urban, suburban, and neighborhoods across Canada. There are some individuals that figure that industrial or that the storage unit is an industrial capacity, and there's others that consider it as a commercial capacity. However, when we're looking at it, the industrial side of it is generally means that they're storing high-grade industrial products, things like that to that event, whereas in the commercial ones, it's usually more for the individual to store things that they have in their garage or wherever else that they may have it. However, the introduction of mini storage units can impact the neighborhood in several ways. On the positive side, these facilities help to reduce clutter in homes and businesses, potentially increase property aesthetics and quality of life. They can also contribute to the local economy by providing jobs, supporting small businesses that need a flexible storage solution. However, there are also challenges associated with mini storage facilities, and this includes increased traffic, congestion, and if it's large enough or operates these long extended hours, the traffic congestion can be into the night. Some residents may have concerns about the appearance of these storage buildings as their industrial look can contrast with the residential surroundings. Additionally, inadequate site planning can lead to issues such as noise, lighting, or drainage problems. Overall, the impact of mini storage facilities on a neighborhood depends on their location, design, management, and community engagement. Thoughtful integration such as landscaping, architectural design, and traffic management can help mitigate potential negative effects and enhance their benefit for the community. The applicant has provided a traffic impact assessment report, which was dated September 3rd, 2025, that had indicated that no queuing or operational issues are anticipated on Hot Springs Road. A Works and Services Agreement is recommended for the issuance of the DP, and the development variance permit will also address the physical development of the site. There is no financial considerations associated with this report at this time, and we reviewed the zoning bylaw C2 requirements and the OCP bylaw 1184, 2022, section 7.2F. With that, your worship, staff is recommending that zoning amendment bylaw number 1244, 2026 be introduced and given first reading. The second one is that zoning amendment bylaw 2026 be given second reading, and that staff be directed to schedule a public hearing.
Move first reading, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for first reading? There is no discussion. Seconded by Councillor Jackson. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the second recommendation, that's zoning amendment bylaw 1244-2026 be introduced and given second reading. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion, please. Councillor Schweinbenz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Vital. Through you to staff, to Ken, on page 57, under number 2 amendment, in A, you've got by inserting personal services use. Is that meant to be vague to allow a variety of different uses on that site?
Yes, Your Worship, it is meant to be vague. It also fits in with the zoning definition. If we go to our zoning bylaw, we can look into the commercial uses, and we'll see that there is under the definition personal services uses.
Sorry, where do you see that?
And you go to the zoning bylaw, page 5, commercial uses means the provision of goods and services as a land use activity that is carried out for financial gain or profit. And this includes but is not limited to the following land use activities: artisan activities, arts and craft shops. There's a list there. And part of the list near the bottom is the personal services use, where the fourth bullet from the bottom, page 6 of the zoning definitions.
Okay.
I would also like to point out at this time, Your Worship, that what we're looking at this point in time is not to approve a zoning bylaw at this particular point in time, but what we're looking at is to authorize staff to go out and collect the information and bring back all of this information to council so that council can make an informed decision to either approve it or not allow it to happen based upon information that's collected during the public hearing process.
Great, thank you. No, I'm supportive of this as this motion, and I note with interest your comments about thoughtful integration of things like landscaping and architecture design, and I think the proponent so far has done that, and I think it's going to be if it goes forward, going to be a good looking project. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on second reading? Mayor Schweinbenz?
Sorry, one other quick thing I forgot through you, Madam Chair, to staff. Is this for both properties that we're doing this for, or just for the, I think you called it the parent property that's surrounding the store?
This is for both properties, Your Worship. If, as we go through the public hearing process, we find out that individuals would like it just located just into one specific lot, we can revise the bylaw to do that. But at this particular point in time, we don't have any of that information.
Okay, because I think the carrot of this proposal, notwithstanding the services for storage, is the fact that the proponent is proposing a really terrific little convenience and mini store down there. So there's no chance that it would be converted to storage at that old store location. Is that right?
At this point, if they wish to change it into once this becomes a permitted use for both parcels of land, they could turn it into that, but then they would have to reapply for their development permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cossey, I just have one question that perhaps you could provide some clarity on. I know a new legislation indicates that sometimes a public hearing cannot be held, and other times it can be held. In this circumstances, can you provide the clarity on why your recommendation is to schedule a public hearing?
Certainly. There's the legislation that we used to have at one time. Council has always had the option to not have a public hearing, but they had to go through a notice of intent period, which is basically the same and a little bit more work than doing a public hearing process. In this case, it's just the quickest and the easiest is just to go straight out for public engagement is just to have a public hearing. The new requirements are only for residential dwelling units.
Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1244, 2026 be introduced and given second reading. All in favor? That recommendation passes. On to the third recommendation, that staff be directed to schedule a public hearing.
Madam Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbentz. Any further discussion on that? I see none, so I'll call the question. All in favor? The motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. It takes us to item 17, new business, and I don't believe there is any. Moving to item 18, notice of motion A. Councillor Vital, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I brought this notice of motion forward as a result of the new landscaping that is being done out front of Memorial Hall. So I'll read the recommendation. Whereas the permanent installation of a cenotaph provides a place of remembrance, reflection, and gathering space to honor the service and sacrifice of members of the Canadian Armed Forces. And whereas Memorial Hall is a central and historically significant location within our community, which is well suited to serve as a site of remembrance. And whereas the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 32 plays a vital role in supporting veterans, their families, and has a respected role in leading local commemorative services, therefore be it resolved that Council directs staff to investigate the purchase and erecting of a cenotaph outside of Memorial Hall and engage with Royal Canadian Legion Branch 32 to seek input and guidance on appropriate design and protocols, and be it further resolved that staff report back to Council with recommendations, including a proposed project budget and timeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. The B is from myself. Councillor Swinburne noted it earlier tonight. Just that we didn't get to any action or decision point last council meeting on item 17C. And I believe that the village does have interests that should be considered and protected when arising from forestry activity near the village and in the Harrison Lake watershed. And we have written BC Timber Sales looking for information and we hopefully will get a fulsome response on that. But also that we should take perhaps additional steps thinking ahead to the UBCM conference later this year. Therefore, the resolution is that at a future committee of the whole meeting, one, council discuss concerns that might arise from forestry activities near the village of Harrison Hot Springs and how the village should engage provincial authorities on forestry activities near the village that might affect risks associated from wildfires, water quality of Harrison Lake, risk of flooding in the village, the view and aesthetic qualities of the forest and the mountains as seen from the village. And two, council consider whether and how to engage neighboring communities, including the District of Kent and Stahelis, on these matters. And that takes us to item 19 on the agenda, which is question period for items relevant to the agenda. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight that has a question for council? Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. Is council aware that when you are processing the new zoning bylaw, number 1244, sorry, what is the number? 1244, that contrary to what you've just been told, that will actually change the permitted uses in all properties in Harrison in the C2 zone, not just the properties at 889 Hot Springs Road. Because it's a change to the table of permitted uses, it affects every property in the C2 zone. Our commercial core area here is zone C1, C2, and C3. And if you're changing the zoning at the table level, that changes everybody's zoning, everybody's permitted uses. Normally, what you do when you want to confine that change to one property, you identify the property by its legal description and you apply that change to that property only. So you have actually now involved all of the properties in C2 and Harrison, and that, I think, requires notification to those owners that you're doing things to their permitted uses, and they need to be notified, and that hasn't appeared anywhere in any of this. I don't think that the bylaw is effective anyway, because a personal use, a personal service use, is anything but a storage facility. It's ridiculous, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I'm going to look to staff for some clarification. CAO Cook, the question from Mr. Allen is, are we aware that we are changing the zoning for all C2 properties? Would you be able to speak to that?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Ken is still online, so if you want to have him chime back in, I'm sure he's available if need be.
Mr. Cossey?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, that's true. And that's what was mentioned earlier, that it affects all of the C2 zones, like it currently all affects the C1 zones. However, as I said, when we go through the public hearing process, if the public would like to have it limited to just one lot, we can do that. And that was also mentioned during the presentation. So yes, we can do that.
So the answer to the question is yes, staff and council are aware that this would change the zoning on all C2 properties. Any other questions for anyone else in the gallery or anyone online tonight?
Anyone on Zoom, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Looks like no questions, Your Worship.
No questions, no further questions. Then we get to item 20 on our agenda. Motion to adjourn from Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.